Well, hey everybody, welcome to my house. It's a little bit different and something new that we just thought that we would try and do this week. Our lives are crazy right now, Samantha and I especially, and part of the craziness is that I don't know if you guys know or if I mentioned it. I think I did, but anyway, I was in a car accident a couple weeks ago. And part of being in a car accident is like dealing with all the insurance and all of that afterwards. And my truck was totaled. My car was totaled. And so I've been trying to like navigate and figure out getting a new car, which is no fun at all. It's been almost 3 weeks, and it's just a really long and tedious and terrible process. However, I think that I may have bought myself a vehicle, and it's in Dallas, and so I'm gonna have to go to Dallas and get it and drive it back, which is primarily why I'm choosing to just record here at my house tonight. And we just thought that we would do it a little bit differently. Jake recorded his middle school message on Sunday night from his house, and it just had a good vibe and good feel to it. So I know that you guys are all stuck at home, and obviously, and so figured that we would record from home this week too. So with that being said, just a couple of quick reminders for you. And the first one, I haven't even thought about it actually, like until right now, and it really stinks to have to say it, but I have to because that's my job. They canceled camp. The board and the directors decided that it is in the best interest of us and of the camp to not have any camps this summer. And so there will be no camp. And I know that you're sad about that. We're very sad about that. But it is what it is. And so we'll make that, put that out there for anybody who may have missed watching this or who doesn't watch it. Doesn't matter because you are watching it, so you're kind of like the first people to know. There will be no camp, middle school, high school, or otherwise, for this summer. It's just a weird year, man. Like no winter embassy, and then no, Mexico, and now no camp. I don't know. This is just strange, but we're gonna make it through, and we're gonna be okay. God's got something in store for us. So that's the first thing that you need to know. The most important thing really that you need to know. The other thing to tell you is just a reminder that the mission trip is also canceled. Like we're not doing that either. And as we're engaging tonight, don't forget about Zoom groups after this. The numbers are down below in the description, so you can join those. Yeah, sorry, scatterbrain there for a second. You can join those Zoom groups and just kind of process everything through in that regards. Don't forget the live chat, which should be right over here, but I don't know how this is going to work, so I'll do it on both sides. The live chat's on one of these sides over here, and just let us know that you're there, and I'd love to just connect with you there all together before Zoom groups. I love you guys. I miss you. If you need anything, feel free to holler at us. I'm going to throw this over to the bumper video for the series now, and then we'll pick up in week 4 of what to do when you don't know what to do.
So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, There's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
All right, so week 4 of what to do when you don't know what to do. I mentioned just a moment ago, but just for clarification's sake, I'm at my house. And when you're at my house, some things happen. There's some noises that you may or may not hear, like my phone going off right now, because that's what it's doing, or my dog, or my cat, or my child crying because she's trying to take a nap right now, but she's also teething, and so she's not taking very good naps, especially like trying to fall asleep. Also, Samantha is in the kitchen cooking. There she is.
Really?
Hi.
Hi.
That's my wife, Samantha. I don't know if you remember her. I know that you haven't seen her in a while. But that was her. She's cute. And Janessa's taking a nap. Sorry. Maybe if she wakes up by the end of this, you might get to see her. But who knows? Anyway, one thing that we love to do at our house is to watch movies. And I can't play with that pen because I'll be distracted and I'll click it and it'll be loud. So anyway, one thing that we love to do is to watch movies. And we don't get to do it super often because, Janessa doesn't go down very well sometimes. And so like the other night we tried to watch Lord of the Rings and we made it like 20 minutes into it. And Janessa woke up crying and we were like, forget it. We're just going to watch a show because it's easier. But if we were all together, I would give you guys the opportunity right now to like shout out and tell me what's your favorite movie. But we're not together and you can't shout out. So what I'm going to ask you to do is either over here or over here, whichever side it's on, in the live chat, tell me what your favorite movie is. And one thing that makes a movie great is really how much we like the main character, right? The more we like the main character, the more we are going to like the movie. I just lost all of my stuff. This is why you don't preach with technology, but I'm doing it anyway. We're really going raw and uncut tonight. So, this is my life today. I love technology. Anyway, so producers, right, whenever they're creating and like writing movies, one of the things that they try and do is to create characters who are compelling to us, right? That we have interest in, that we connect with. And one of the ways, the primary way really, that they do that is not just like showing how great a character is, but also like some flaws within the character as well. And those flaws kind of guide the story as well. So think about like a dad who is rescuing his daughter from the kidnappers, right? And that's a compelling enough story, but it adds another layer of intrigue whenever you also, throughout the course of the movie, discover that the dad and daughter don't really have that great of a relationship. And so they'll cut to scenes of the dad and daughter fighting and arguing. And you're like, what in the world is happening here? What they're doing is developing a backstory. And it makes the current story that much more compelling when we understand what's going on or what has happened prior to the movie itself. Think about it in the case with like a superhero, right? And the superhero and the villain, you find out over the course of the movie, actually used to be best friends. And part of their angst, part of their fighting with each other is because they used to be best friends and they disagree now on their entire worldview. And that just adds this whole other layer. Understanding the backstory helps to bring and make the story more complex and interesting and compelling. Sometimes whenever they introduce these things, it can seem really, really random. They'll be in the middle of an action scene, right? And the dad is going Liam Neeson on all of these like guys who are trying and who have kidnapped his daughter, and he's trying to fight them off. And then right in the middle of it, maybe like right as he gets punched in the face for the 8 billionth time, they flash back to a scene of him and his daughter fighting, right? Where there's just like this incredible amount of tension and anger. But rather than like that making the dad more upset, that actually kind of fires him up again, and he's able to continue the fight. It seems random in the moment, but it advances the story. Chances are you have felt this way living your own life. There are moments in our real-time, real-life stories that make us ask the same types of questions. What is happening, and what is the point of going through this? We're talking about difficulties, right? Pain and struggle and problems. It's what we've been talking about this entire series. And the things that will be a part of our backstory one day, but for now, they're in our current story. And when we're in the middle of them, well, it's kind of rough. And for the past few weeks, we've been shaping our stories about pain and disappointment and frustration around the character of Joseph. We've been asking the question, what do I do when I don't know what to do? And today we're going to be talking about things like, what do I do when people make fun of me? Or what do you do when a friend dies? What do you do when your learning disability makes everything much more difficult? Or when your parents' divorce is eating you up inside? What do you do when your self-harm habits get out of control? Or if someone that you love gets really sick? In other words, tonight we're going to be kind of talking about some heavy stuff, painful stuff, what I call real life stuff. But before we can even ask the question, what do I do? We often ask ourselves, why? Why is this happening to me? Why am I the one going through this? Why is this happening now? And just like a movie that flashes back to a scene that doesn't seem to make sense in the moment, difficulties can make us feel the same way. They often feel random and pointless and unnecessary. Sometimes we see the point after the fact, when it is part of our backstory. Maybe you have a broken friendship, but when you look back on that friendship in a couple of years, you realize that those friends were causing you to make poor decisions and to do things that weren't really true to who you are in the first place. And now that you're actually glad that friendship was broken because it's allowed you to make better decisions for your life. Sometimes we even see the point in the moment while the difficult things are happening. For example, you maybe found yourself struggling in band, right? But when you look back, or not when you look back, because you're struggling with this in the moment, right? So you're struggling with band, and it's on you because you were the one not rehearsing and not practicing enough. You're not putting in the effort, and you get called out by your section leader in front of everybody. Or at least you would have if you were able to go to school and do things like band anymore. But you started doing extra rehearsals and you got better. It wasn't the most fun thing in the world, but it was for the best. And it's nice when that happens, right? Most of the time, though, that which we're going through seems pointless. Things that don't seem good seem pointless. And we've all had experiences of hurt and feelings that it's pointless in the moment. Whether or not it was making a team or not getting the part in the musical or going through the drama of friends and family, we've all asked ourselves, why me, right? Maybe you've asked yourself in this moment in history, why me? Why COVID-19 right here, right now? When we go through these things, it's hard. And if you're like me, there's usually not many good answers in the moment. And here's what's worse. In real life, unlike the movies, our difficult circumstances usually don't get a pretty bow tied on them as we walk through them. In other words, they just don't make sense, right? The outcome may not turn out exactly how we want them to. And in those times, it can be really difficult for us to see the point of our pain, to find hope despite the hurt, or to find the determination to keep going despite the difficulties. But when we find our life confusing, difficult, we can actually learn what we can do by looking at people who have handled similar situations. Which brings us back to the life of Joseph. And we've been looking at some of the events in the life of Joseph. And the accounts of his story are found in the Old Testament of the Bible, which means that His story happened way before Jesus's story. Here's a quick recap of what's happened in Joseph's life so far. He was his dad's favorite. Of all 12 brothers, he was the second youngest. He's the favorite. And Dad told him and everybody else that that was the case. Brothers beat him up, sold him into slavery. Yikes. He was taken to a foreign country, Egypt, where he was forced to work for a high-powered official. So, right? He was then falsely accused by that high-ranking official's wife for doing something that he had never done and was thrown into prison. Yikes. So that's where we are, right? From free man to slave to prisoner, if anyone has earned the right to ask, what's the point? Why is all of this happening? It's our old pal, Joseph, right? And this is where we pick up. Joseph is in jail for a crime he did not commit. And here he makes some new friends. Check it out. Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the same prison where Joseph was confined. So Pharaoh, he's the boss of all Egypt, right? It mentioned multiple times. He's the king, and whenever... and I said Joseph, I didn't mean to. Sorry, Pharaoh. Pharaoh's the king of Egypt right now, not Joseph. Joseph is never the king of Egypt. He's never Pharaoh. Pharaoh's Pharaoh. Pharaoh, but not Joseph. Clear? Cool. So, Pharaoh's the king of Egypt, and Samantha's laughing at me. But Pharaoh's the king of Egypt, and being the king of Egypt basically means that he can do whatever he wants. So if, like, the cupbearer, like, sneezes, right, wrong, and, like, spills Pharaoh's wine, that's enough to, constitute the cupbearer being thrown into prison. And if the baker, like, put a little bit too much crust on the bread one day that he baked, and the Pharaoh didn't like that good enough reason to throw him into jail. So if you got on the king's bad side and he was in a bad mood, you get thrown in jail. And that's basically what happens to these two guys, right? They hadn't even done anything illegal, much like Joseph. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they got thrown into jail. And here's what happened to these two guys. They were thrown in jail with Joseph, and our story continues. After they had been in custody for some time, each of the two men, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were held in prison, had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected, that they were confused and lost. So he asked Pharaoh's officials, who was in Pharaoh's... So, start over. Take two. So he asked Pharaoh's officials who were in custody with him in his master's house, why do you look so sad today? We both had dreams, they answered, but there is no one to interpret them. Then Joseph said to them, do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams. There's a lot going on here. So what's important to remember is that Joseph is in prison for a crime that he did not commit, and even in this really difficult situation, Joseph continues to honor God. The men told Joseph their dreams, and with God's help, Joseph told them what their dreams meant. And then, what Joseph said would happen, happened. Based off of the dream the chief cupbearer had, Joseph said that he would be restored to his favorable position with the king of Egypt, and he was. Based off of the chief baker's dream, Joseph said that he would not have the same luck, and, well, he didn't. Pharaoh killed him, right? Listen, the rest of the story is just as crazy as all of that. Like, it's definitely worth the read. You should follow up. We're not going to do that right now. Spoiler alert, Baker dies. You would think that, given what Joseph had done to help the chief cupbearer out, that it would have made sense for the cupbearer to speak up and say, thank you. Hey, Mr. Pharaoh, for helping me out. Thank you for getting me out of prison, Mr. Pharaoh. I just want you to know that I was locked up, and while I was locked up, I made friends with this pal Joseph. He's a pretty cool guy. He was picking up on my vibes one day and feeling my feels, and asked me what was wrong, and I had this dream, and I told him, I don't know why I was sad about the dream, because I got out of prison, but that's what the dream was about. But I was sad about that. That's beside the point. I had a dream, And Joseph told me what was going to happen in the dream. And then it happened, Pharaoh. Like, it actually happened. Maybe you have some dreams that are confusing to you. I know a guy, and his name is Joseph, and I bet that he would be more than happy to help you interpret your dreams. So you should maybe think about getting this dude out of prison, like, as soon as possible. That would be great if that's actually what happened, but it's not. It's not what happened. The story tells us that the cupbearer forgot about Joseph, right? He got out of jail and went on with his life, which kind of stinks for Joseph. And over time, as Joseph is waiting in jail for his friend to remember him, he realized that not only did his friend forget him, but what he did to help his friend didn't help his situation at all. I'm sure that he was pretty tempted to wonder, what is the point of all of this? It didn't help me or my life get better at all. Has God forgotten about me? Maybe Joseph thinks. I thought I did what was right, and here I am still in jail. Guys, 2 years. 2 years later, Pharaoh had 2 dreams that bothered him. And he desperately searched for someone on his staff who could interpret them, but no one could. 2 years later, the cupbearer says, "Oh, I remember Joseph." So Pharaoh calls for Joseph, who interprets the dream with incredible accuracy. And as a result, long story short, Joseph is promoted to the second in command in the entire country of Egypt. Under Joseph's leadership, Egypt survived a terrible famine, which eventually put Egypt in a position to save not just Joseph, but Joseph's entire family and all of the other people from his homeland who were suffering from the famine. But it was 2 full years before the cupbearer remembered Joseph in prison. Even when Joseph was promoted to a position of incredible power, he was still living in a foreign land. So it wasn't like Joseph was just able to go home and be a free man with his family again. And Joseph was still second in command under Pharaoh, which meant that if Pharaoh was having a bad day, remember, like I explained earlier, if he was having a bad day and wanted to throw Joseph back in prison, Pharaoh could have done that. So no, none of this made Joseph's life perfect. Not even close to that. But when we see the big picture and understand the context of this backstory, we see that Joseph's challenging circumstances uniquely positioned himself to do something great. Joseph had to wait 2 years. And all of the good things that happened in Joseph's world didn't make those bad things okay. Being promoted to second in command didn't undo the challenges that he faced leading up to that position. But at the same time, those difficult circumstances positioned him and prepared him for something great, something only Joseph could do. And it's the same for you and me, friends. Hard things are going to happen in your life. And it's important to remember that just because something happens doesn't mean it was something that God did to you or wanted for you. Because of sin, things happen that are not fair, that don't make sense. People hurt each other and they create systems of hurt. But when it seems like it's impossible that anything at all good can come out of a situation, remember, God is really good at doing the impossible. Check this out. You guys have heard me quote this verse 100 million billion times. It's Romans 8:28. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purposes. In other words, guys, anything, everything can be redeemed, can be made right. It may not make things all better. It's not going to do that. And it may not even make them make sense. But God is in the business of taking our hurt and our difficulties and our pain and redeeming them. That means even if it was done in evil and meant for evil in our lives, He can use it for good. Not only for us, but for others. In other words, when you don't know what to do, remember that your problems can position you for a purpose. Now, this doesn't mean that we can just tie a bow on everything and make everything all better. It doesn't mean that everything will be fixed and will go back to being how it was before that bad thing happened. It just means that we can leave room for God to tell a new story in our hard circumstances. It means that we can have confidence in God's ability to redeem things, to know that good can come from bad. It means that the bad stuff doesn't get the last word. The hardest and the worst things that we experience aren't the end of us or our story. In fact, they could be part of something more. So, when we go through pain and we can't see the purpose yet, here are some things that can help us get a bigger perspective. The first thing is to remember that no one else has your life story. Your difficult circumstances aren't fun, but they aren't unique. They are unique to you. They put you in a position to learn and to grow and discover things that no one else can do. God is using your tough stuff in ways that you cannot imagine because they have shaped you in ways that no one else has been shaped. It may not make it easier, but it may give you a perspective or a way to see it differently. The second thing that you can do is to remember that your story can interact with other stories. Although no one else has your life story, many people do face similar circumstances, and you could be a voice to help them through their own challenges and pain. A help that you could not have been able to provide if you hadn't gone through those hurts and challenges and pain. So, when you go through family drama, you can help people who are going through family drama. When you go through a hard breakup, you can help and understand how someone else feels when they go through a hard breakup. When you deal with sickness or illness or injury, you can encourage people who are also going through the same thing. When you have big doubts and questions about your faith, you can be a safe place for people to bring their doubts and questions about their faith. You can become a person who looks around and sees other people's struggles and says, "Oh, you feel that? Me too. You've experienced that? I've been there. Can I tell you my experience?" The truth is, the next best thing to having something fixed for us is having someone who has been there through it walk along in the mess with us. That's one of the reasons that we make sure here at Embassy that every single person who walks through the door has a small group leader. Because those people are designed to be in your life to say, "Hey, I've been there. This is how I handled it. This is how it felt for me. Maybe it feels similarly for you. Let's figure this out together." The leaders in our ministry friends, Jake and Stuart and Ob and Melinda and Sammy and myself, we've been through some stuff, often way more than you guys ever realize. You may think that we've got it all together, and the fact of the matter is that we never have, and we currently don't, and we never will. Right? We're just a little bit further along the path of maybe getting some things figured out, and we're able to give you guys some perspective, right? That's the point of small groups. That's the point of even these Zoom groups that we're in right now. So, if you're going through something, one of the best people that you can talk to is your leader. Even though they may not have experienced your exact situation, they will have a better perspective because of what they have experienced. Joseph went through pain that felt pointless. But when you see his backstory, we see that God used his problems and positioned him, for a purpose. God took his impossibly bad situation and used it to create an unimaginably good down the road. And we'll talk more about that when we wrap this series up next week. But for now, imagine what it would look like, or could look like, if God did the same for you. What if God used your painful situation to position you for something amazing that you haven't even imagined yet? And what if the first step is simply you asking God for his help? Friends, God is always willing and available to help. And so are we. So is your small group leaders. I'm so proud, specifically of the girls. And if any of the boys are watching right now, I'm pretty bummed with you guys. I'm just going to be open and honest because I'm just disappointed in the Zoom group attendance. And I'm saying this now because my plan, hopefully, is to dive into the girls' small group tomorrow night, because today's Tuesday. But anyway, but if I don't get to, I'm saying it now because I may be in Dallas picking up a vehicle. So girls, you guys rock. Man, you guys have been such a consistent attendance and a consistent joy throughout this process of this COVID-19 situation that we've been facing. So girls, great job. Boys, step it up. Jake and I are here every single week. We are available and ready to help you guys, to talk to you guys, to hang out, whatever it is that you guys need. But you guys got to reach out. You guys got to answer our text messages. You guys got to make yourselves available in the same way. So girls, great job. I love you and I'm proud of you. Enjoy your group, and I'll see you either here in just a second, which makes all of this pointless, or soon. Either way, we love you and we'll talk to you later.